Absolutely, yeah. Jesus!
Just had to do one of those.
Just as a conclusion.
That is ludicrously. Dude, that's worse than a skydive. A skydive doesn't have that, seriously.
Oh, it doesn't even have that.
What
You got to give me some warning, man.
Yeah.
Jesus! Whoa, no, stop!
That was awesome.
That would be the last one. That'll be the last one.
No more.
We're going to welcome Iz. He's the third musketeer today.
Hello there.
And I've got audio back.
Yeah.
Nice. Everything's rolling.
Otherwise, I would have been mute the whole time.
We've got the fluffy dice. We forgot to talk about those. Straight from Vegas. We just thought we'd complete the old Tesla with some good luck fluffy dice.
Yes. I feel like I'm the driving instructor or the examiner at the back of the notebook and say, "Can you take the next left, please?"
I would love to go on a driving test with a Model S and like ludicrous mode.
Yeah.
And like your sole intent is not to pass the test, just to scare the hell out of the driving marker.
Well, imagine
That
doing
would
it
be hilarious.
autopilot as well.
Yeah.
Totally.
You're trying to get your license. You're going, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
They're like, park here.
There's
Yeah,
actually
I'll
no
just
need.
park.
There's no need. Oh dear.
No, I was excited about getting 3 VBs to test autopilot, and just all sit in the back.
And it has to be it has to be VBs, right? No,
Yeah.
no other beers will do.
Aussie, well, it's Aussie. We've got to go with the
Yeah.
Aussie Yobbo thing. We had a bit of a rant this morning, a bit of a catch up spoke about Todd's business,
Right.
hacks.
Yeah.
Spoke a little bit about just the 3D tech, and we thought that might go with VR. So I
Yep.
mentioned that. Said I think Google's just in a really nice place with
Yep.
Google Glass being accessible, and I just like that it's natively supported by YouTube, so you can use it without all the fancy stuff anyway.
Yeah.
What else did we rant about?
We did not have structure. We went all over the place.
It was a bit free form.
Spontaneous.
We went from developing economies and technology, patents,
Right.
closed systems, open systems. All right, let me ask a question of his. Put him on the spot.
Right.
What is one piece of technology that you think is going to make a huge difference for developing economies?
Developing economies.
Yeah. Not us rich white guys and girls, but
Right.
just what's going to make a difference in the entire world?
Are you talking about things that are already in motion at the moment, already being used, or
No, just something in the future. Jamie, you can append my question if you think that could be.
Just while Liz has a bit of time to think, because it's probably a hard one, or it just takes a little bit of time to get some thoughts. But we did touch on this morning a lot of this cool stuff like Oculus Rift. It's $800 a pop, and you need a supercomputer. So it's going to be this rich cream layer of affluent.
Yeah.
I'm going to be braced as affluent white people at the top, whereas the guys in say the Namibian desert may not be able to access that.
Yeah.
no?
So you're referring to that.
Yeah,
I'm
referring
deeper
to
layer.
things. So typically, your technology is built a lot for the 1%,
Right.
And I'll call it that because it's a lot less racist. But that is where technology is normally built for, because that's where take the Model S. It's an expensive car. That's where you can start to see returns, so that you can build a product for the masses. But just in terms of like products, what do you think is?
Are we talking below the poverty line? Populations, which is actually most of the world, or are we talking just developing countries in general? I would just go for them both, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. So there's this really well-known guy. I can't remember his name. We'll probably look him up. And he produced these drinks. His business that he made a lot of money out of were these like mini sort of fizzy drinks or mini sort of nutritious drinks or something. Anyway, he made a lot of money out of that. Probably, I'm not sure he sold the company or not. But now he's working on a few innovations, and one of which there's a mosquito in this car.
I'll
Just got bitten by a mozzie.
I'll tell Tesla.
That's going to add to the 360.
Yeah, you can probably catch it.
Yeah, can you find the mosquito at 5 minutes in? The moment when it bites is.
Yeah. So I
Fizzy
probably.
drink, guys.
So just as I'm talking about this, I'm probably saying technology that eradicates malaria. That's one thing. And he's working on like a little bicycle type thing where you pedal and it generates electricity. So you do that I don't know, for half an hour a day, and it generates your day's worth of electricity. That's one thing that a product that he's working on. And the other thing is actually probably electric cars, actually, because I remember this interview that Clayton Christensen from Harvard was doing a while ago when they were talking about Tesla, and he was saying that Tesla had this great opportunity to start at the bottom end of the market, which is super cheap electric cars that don't need to go for a long range. They're they're only for small cities. They're super cheap to run, and so on. And then I think he was alluding to the fact that Tesla had a massive opportunity in the developing world to do that, which is, if you look at the books that he writes a lot about non-customers, people who would benefit from the same technology, but something that's not as sophisticated. The technology, he's stripping down technology and making it more accessible for other markets, and especially developing markets.
Yeah.
So electric cars was one of them, but we're talking cheap, super cheap electric cars, really, much cheaper than
nearly non-sexy agricultural type thing.
Yeah, so if you just think of like tuk-tuks or that sort of thing.
Well, that example is actually that's spot on, because 2 years ago I was in Bangladesh, and they have the manual rickshaws. So you have the three-wheel rickshaws with people on the back, and they take people around.
Yeah.
And they're riding them like pedal power.
Yeah.
And people are now retrofitting golf buggies basically into them, so they're all electric.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're talking about.
Right.
And it lets these guys who previously would work to 70 years old, completely ruining their bodies, to still earn an income, yet have a more productive way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So communication is another thing that's already been, mobile phones have already revolutionized a lot of developing countries, and where the infrastructure has never been there. The physical lines, they haven't been available. Cell towers have kind of bypassed all of that, and I hear the stories of these villages that have centralized mobile phones. So the person, the chief of the village or whatever would have access to the mobile phone, and people would go there and make phone calls.
Send an SMS or whatever.
Especially in terms of trading and so on. There's heaps of information about that.
We touched on that this morning. I saw a really great case study. It was out of Bangladesh or India somewhere.
Yeah.
The fishermen previously just went out and fished, and they drove back and they got $1 a fish.
Right.
But as soon as they could send an SMS, once they're out at sea, they could ping 3 ports and go, oh shit, it's $10 a fish.
That's it.
So we're stuck in this 1% super high tech versus this really high impact sort of low tech thing. That's a nice.
Do you know
nice
the name?
sentiment.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know the name of the Apple CEO back in the day when the one that Steve Jobs hired?
Oh, I watched the movie recently.
The one from Coca-Cola.
Pepsi.
Oh, Pepsi, sorry. John Scully, yeah. So he's actually, I've heard that he's working on this new smartphone that's super accessible in terms of price to developing populations or developing countries.
That's cool.
Populations of developing countries. And so I think it's Android based, but he's doing it so it's super cheap. He's working on
$50 or $100 or something.
Yeah, so around that range. So it's a non-market, it's a non-customer at the moment, and so he's creating this new market for his product, which is, I don't know if you guys come across the Blue Ocean strategy, which is this sort of set of rules to create, use the same technology but create new markets for it, non-existent markets.
I never read the book.
Which is,
I've heard of it, and I just
it's become one of those. It's like a theoretical thing that's become a buzzword.
Sort of blue ocean thinking.
Yeah. Oh, and that's blue sky thinking, I think.
Right.
Blue ocean strategy.
Okay.
So the Nintendo Wii was a prime example of it, which was a games console that appealed to to consumers that have never been gamers, and so on. So yeah.
I read in a similar book around the time when that came out that one way of kind of figuring out what sort of product can make a huge difference is when you increase the economic purchasing power of a lot of people.
Right.
Which is why financing and the sort of finance revolution we've had in the last 100 years.
Yep.
The microfinance.
No, actually just normal financing. So you
Yeah,
go back to
right.
like the 50s when you could offer like household appliances on credit.
Right.
You could then get women that could actually then start working again because they didn't have
Okay.
to spend all their time
Right.
Yeah.
because they didn't have to save up the money to buy all these
And
appliances.
the productivity's gone up.
So
Yeah.
when you increase purchasing power, you instantaneously open up a new market to customers that just couldn't have it before.
Yeah.
You're right.
Sometimes you do that through different vehicles like finance and so forth. Sometimes it's just more creative business models.
Absolutely. Yeah. Jesus.
Just had to do one of those.
just as a conclusion.
That is ludicrously. Dude, that's worse than a skydive. A skydive doesn't have that, seriously.
Oh, it
No.
doesn't even have that.
What
You got to give me some warning, man.
Yeah, I knew that you had no warning because you were in thought about what I just said. So I thought, you know what, that was a great time.
I guess your heartbeat going. Jesus.
It does do that, yeah.
And I've also been in an Acrobat aeroplane doing 2G
Right.
turns
Oh,
and
wow.
things.
Yeah.
It didn't have that visceral impact.
Yeah.
Maybe, I guess it was sudden, but by the time you're up in the plane, you get a little bit acclimatized to the madness.
Yeah.
I tell you what though, for like I've been riding motorcycles for a long time, and for anyone who has ridden a fast motorcycle, this actually doesn't feel that fast because
Okay.
like a stock 600 or 1,000 sports bike will have the same acceleration, but you have the wind in your face, and you feel like you're just like on the edge of death.
You're out there, yeah, you're hanging
With
out
this,
there.
you still like it feels insane because you're in a car,
Yeah.
but the acceleration itself can be matched by a motorcycle.
Right.
It's just most people haven't ridden one, so yeah.
Did you just put it on ludicrous mode to do that, or did you just accelerate?
I just accelerated. It was
Okay.
already on ludicrous mode.
Oh, it was,
I just
right.
checked earlier, but
Just to make sure.
yeah. Well, all our cameras survived, so
Yeah.
Good.
Look, we've got some sandbags and bits
Oh,
and
okay.
pieces.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, stickety
Just
bird.
check that the. Yeah. So I don't know if I've
It's
missed any.
recording. We're still recording.
No, yeah, still recording.
Yeah, great.
Just wanna check.
And how's Product Hunt going, Iz? Because that's how we met. I met
Yeah.
Iz runs Product Hunt Sydney, and I met Iz through some mutual friends and did a little bit of work with the guys and covered some of the events.
Great
And Iz
footage.
introed me into Todd. We've got some mutual mates. But how's Product Hunt Sydney?
Product Hunt Sydney. We haven't
I've
had
seen
an event.
There's been some coffee dates I've seen.
There's been some coffee stuff, yeah. We haven't had an event in a while, which kind of reflects what's been going on.
Wow, it's a new baby. That's its own thing.
Priorities.
That's it. So, but there is. I'm hoping that we'll have something at the end of May at some point. So,
Yeah, okay.
and there's quite a few products I'm quite excited about. There's an agency that's been working on an EEG scanner type product.
Brain scanner.
Brain scanner, yeah.
Yeah.
So an EEG, like an electrical activity or alpha wave type thing, but it's more.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be consumer based. So
That's cool.
yeah, I'm trying to tee that up.
Aussies?
The agency is based in Sydney. I'm not sure whether it's,
nice.
yeah, it's based in Sydney. The actual the company that they do the product for is, I think it's a US company.
Okay.
But
So there's some product development out
The
here.
team, the product development team. I'm really conscious of this mozzie because I've just been bitten and it's just like a blister's just started forming.
It's a super mozzie.
It's a super mozzie. It's got like a red on it.
hybrid.
I think we can make this video like, can you find the mozzie? Maybe we can run like a.
A mozzie is a mosquito, by the way. Just for those who.
It's different to an Aussie.
For those off the continent.
Yeah.
An Aussie and a mozzie, yeah.
Aussie.
Yeah.
I saw it come in. I thought it was a fly. I'm like, whatever.
Welcome, come
It's
aboard.
got like massive
Fangs.
dangly things. I don't know whether it's just. I'm just conscious that it's going to fire.
So Isa's reaction to this mozzie right now is like me when I'm trying to sleep and I can hear one.
Oh, that's the worst.
Oh, I'm
That is the
terrible.
worst.
Yeah, my wife laughs at me because I just sit up with a torch and like I imagine I have a knife, but really it's just my hands. I'm just ready to get the bug up.
Yeah.
I can't stand it.
And I love that initially you think you're going to get lucky whacking yourself in the head. And the first minute or two you're like, oh, I'll get it. Then you're like, no, there's no way
and then
in
you
hell.
hear nothing and you're like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
good. And then you realise you just hit yourself for no reason.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's only a thing that happens in Australia. Are we the only ones that do that?
I had my first apartment down at Roselle. Summer, it was hot as shit, no air conditioning, but it had no fly screens.
Right.
So I tried to sleep with the fly screens open, but I just get eaten alive, man. So I ended up, out of desperation, just having to sleep in this borderline swat. I had to close all the doors.
Making yourself even more.
Yeah, it was. I ended up getting a Mozzie net for $20 or something.
Yeah.
All right, we should say Autopilot, Harbour Bridge. We've got a bus there and a Land Rover Discovery right there, so I'm trusting Autopilot's doing its job right.
And the nice thing, what I can see here on the dash, the sensors are picking up the bus.
Yep.
So there's some
and you can see the
environmental
car
awareness.
there. I'm like really close to both of these sides, so.
I just want to see the steering wheel moving.
Oh, okay.
This is the
unfortunately,
thing.
the Harbour Bridge is quite straight.
Yeah.
Well, the sensors as well are also giving. The sensors are giving amber and red notes as to what's around.
Right.
What's around the car. So now it's just gone to yellow / amber.
Yep.
And disappeared, and the bus side's disappeared as well. It went from red to amber as well.
You can see the car. It sees that car up there coming. So we did a little bit of experimentation before. So you get the steering.
It's moving. The steering wheel's moving.
What it will do is if you have this on and you have a corner, so let's say we've set to 70, but you've got a tighter corner, it will actually slow the car down.
Right.
So that you can take the corner and it will do it safely. So yeah, it's like cruise control on steroids.
Yeah.
Right, let's see which way it wants to go. I think it might go straight, but it could follow that line.
So we're at a branch.
We're at a branch.
Go right in the middle.
Yeah, so it's following this right line here. It thinks that's the right one, which is probably right. I didn't know where I was going here.
I think so. I think that is the right one. It'll take it,
If anyone knows the north side of Sydney Harbour Bridge, it's like what?
So does it know...
That's pretty amazing.
How does it make that decision then? The fact that it's taken... Because that barrier changes.
Right, yeah.
That
so
barrier moves.
You can confuse it, and I have confused it. Like where...
Don't say things like this. It means it doesn't work.
No, it works. But the thing is, like, you don't think about how many complexities there are in different road configurations, and how much intuition we have to decide which is the right. Oh, so it's beeping at me because it's saying, "Please hold the steering wheel."
Right.
Now it's not pressure sensitive, but I have to just kind of turn a little bit, and it knows that I'm pushing against it, so it thinks I'm holding it.
So you check in every now and again. There's just a little bit of this human redundancy.
And
so we couldn't sit in the back with VBs.
No, like it will do that twice, or maybe 3 times, and then it will actually slow the car down, put the hazard lights on, and stop.
Right.
Oh, wow. That's really clever.
Yeah, it's pretty
Right.
good. Actually, I haven't tested the hazard lights. I've been told it does that, but alright, so it slowed down. I don't know why. I think because it saw the bus. Now it's veering into the bus.
It's probably because the bus was swerving.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And that fork in the road back there was interesting too, because as Todd was saying, it's pinging the lines in the road. Sometimes in country roads it won't self-drive.
Right.
But I was curious about that branch we come off, because the road was sketchy and there's a bit of
Look at that.
roadworks there as well.
Yeah.
So.
So that got a little
It's
bit
still
lost.
doing 80 in
Yeah.
50 zone. It's still doing 80.
Oh, it doesn't know the speed limits.
Stop!
No, it will slow down.
No, stop!
No. So it should slow down.
It's not slowing down.
Would it have stopped?
It would
before?
have, yeah. It's just because
Well,
we're
just
doing...
last minute.
No, it
It's got ludicrous braking as well.
So efficient.
It does. So if I'm
yeah.
tracking this car, I should have proven the point before that, so you actually knew that it would. So if I'm tracking this car in front, as it stops, so I've set it to 55. I can't think what I call it on to. If this car stops, it will actually pull up behind it nice and gracefully.
Did you brake there, Todd?
I did at the end. Yeah.
Okay, right. So we don't know whether it
Let's see what it does here.
Whether it will stop.
It's a bit hard. I'm not being very kind on it, am I?
Look,
Throwing it into intersections.
But I am loving the leap
Hang on,
of faith in the
this
tech.
should work. This should work.
Well, just put.
So no brakes.
All right. So it is actually slowing down.
It does.
And why didn't it do it before?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it didn't see the car ahead, and that so it probably didn't know that it was doing 0. So at the point where it saw the car, it would have seen that it wasn't moving,
And it probably needed
and
another.
it would have just hammered. But normally, if the car in front is moving, when it slows down, you will slow down.
Right.
It's just the field of view. At some point, it will eventually see the car in front.
And it probably would have
And
gone
it will
into
also take off.
emergency stop mode.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if it's going to go around the corner. No, it won't.
All right. Maybe it needs. We don't have the straight roads here that you probably get in the States.
We are giggling a bit, but we are being safe. It is being supervised.
Yes.
Well, I have full control.
Maybe the VB idea isn't a good one after all, considering the circumstances.
Actually, that could probably make a fun beer commercial.
Yeah.
There'll be something interesting you could do there.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Tesla would not like me to have the car back if.
that's true.
But I think it's really important to test out the technology because a lot of people are either skeptical without even testing it, or they
Trust it so much.
They trust it way too much. I sounded a lot. I don't know what that was for. Anyway, so I think like it's really important to test technology and to be in control, but to feel where its limits are.
Yeah.
And if you think about just driving in general, you have to do that. Like you get into a Lamborghini, you got to know where the limits are. You can't just drive it the same way you drive a Toyota Corolla.
Of course, yeah.
And that's just part of embracing. I must admit, I have no idea where I'm going. So, but it looks like I'm heading towards some beautiful water.
Were you just following the sat nav just then?
No,
Because I would have just gone straight
We're
on.
sort of winging
Well, it depends on where you're trying to go.
I don't know where I'm trying to go.
It looks like we're going to the beach now.
I didn't bring the swimmers.
Yeah, I know.
No,
I think the camera, we should keep it probably G-rated. So, on that note,
Head back.
we're back. Yeah, we won't do skinny dipping. There is a skinny dipping beach up there.
I like the camera, the reverse camera.
Yeah,
Pretty-
yeah, it's really good.
It's kind of HD when it comes to
Very HD.
as far as
See,
reverse
I think
cameras
you
go.
should detect that gutter. Nope, that would be another rim if I did that. So, it does detect like when you're parking properly. You're just always going to find sort of limitations in terms of situations where it's not going to be as reliable. What I found with the Tesla though is it's very good at telling you when it doesn't know.
Right.
Instead of just like crashing,
Yeah.
it will actually tell you like I can't see this.
Right.
Take control. So that's
see.
a really good positive for this car. It's smart. It's kind of like built. You're a dev, so you know this. Like it's kind of like test-driven development. Like you work out how can this test fail first.
Yep.
And then when we know how it's going to fail, we alert the user, and then we build in our own approach to automate it after that.
That's right.
I think it's critical. They're the first guys doing this, and this is the first use case for these type of cars in the future. So they need to do it well. They need to be well thought out.
Absolutely.
They need to build trust with governments and human beings and safety and all this kind of stuff. So it feels pretty robust. I mean, mind you, I've only been here for an hour, driving around for an hour or two.
Well, I've been driving for the last 4 days, and yeah, definitely. For sure.
What's the range that we have on it now after you've charged it up earlier?
So I charged up earlier. I think I had about 450, and then I'm down to 336.
Right.
So this sort of driving is pretty intense because you're kind of stopping and starting, and you're kind of accelerating kind of harder. But in general, I found that range has never been an issue in this car. Like I've never worried about running out.
Right.
You just kind of plan where you're going to charge.
Hey, something that did impress me, I've been following the solar-powered cars, electric cars. There's a bloomin' solar-powered plane circumnavigating it. That, last week, when I thought it was a bit of a rort, a bit of a scam, and last week I'm like, no, this is fair income.
Well, what do you see as the benefit of that? Obviously, it's solar powered, it's good, but what's the main thing that makes you interested in it?
I just didn't think, I didn't think it was possible, because that's super high risk. You got this plane, it just can't cruise to a stop and pull over the side of the road and recharge its batteries. It's a pretty high risk, high stakes kind of game.
Yeah.
And I figured, just look, in my layman's terms, I figured they might have been able to fly a couple miles or half hour or so, but it sounds like they're halfway around the world, and it sounds like it's going gangbusters. I'm not sure of any engineering limitations to it, but it feels like it's working. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I would never have thought that a solar powered plane.
I know, yeah. It's a one-man plane. Actually, I flew to Dubai about a year ago, and that's when it was still doing its world tour, and it was supposed to have landed in Dubai, but was delayed or something, I think. But it's really impressive.
It's sort of, that could be a potential paradigm shift for, I mean, you're not going to have 400 people on one of those, because you've got this weight and fuel and thrust stuff going, but that blew me away. Yeah, so I had this epiphany. I didn't want to buy another. My last phone was a couple of years old. It was really clunky, but it was a good little phone, a Samsung.
Yeah.
But then I looked at the new phones, and I was just looking at Moore's Law. The new phones are still $1,200.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, oh man, like
It's a lot of money, isn't it?
It's a
$1,200.
lot of pennies.
Yeah.
And I didn't need 4K video recording in the phone, so I got this. It's a quad core. It's an Asus. You can't buy them in Australia. I had to get it from Taiwan, but I think they're targeting the developing market.
Yeah.
And it's probably a mid-top phone for that. But dude, it's just wicked. Quad core Intel, 4 gig of RAM, super fast. Does everything all the other phones do. The screen's not as fancy. It's not OLED, but for $380, I'm just super impressed, to be honest.
And is it quite light? And
I'm repelling. Hey.
Yeah, and it's quite light, weight-wise, and
It
fits really well, and
it's great, and it's going to be a great, robust little business tool because I can multitask apps or Google Docs or spreadsheets and things.
That's awesome.
Which is what I wanted it for, but
yeah.
I thought I'd give that a shot. But it's week 2. It's working great. Yeah, we get a follow drone.
I know, like a Casey Neistat type thing.
Well, there's some other guys that are doing really interesting stuff. They put up a drone to fly and they put it on autopilot with GPS.
Yeah.
But then they put another drone to follow it and said follow that drone.
Right.
Which I thought was really smart, really simple, but like ridiculously eloquent. I'm like, hang on, you've got an autopiloted machine with another autopiloted machine auto tracking.
Yeah.
So talking of technology though, and drones, I asked you before is about technology developing economies. One thing that I think is really cool that I've only heard as a concept is effectively a swarm of drones that are a Wi-Fi network above a small city. So they have a base, they have a Wi-Fi signal, they go up, and effectively they create a mesh network for using satellite from one of them. And when they start to run low on battery, then they just go back to base and recharge, and another one comes up.
Yeah.
And you effectively add a Wi-Fi, like a relatively high-speed Wi-Fi network, where you otherwise couldn't.
Yeah. And they don't have to get it from the satellites. They can just get it from like line of sight to the nearest mobile mast, like on 4G.
Yeah, you can do that.
So, but how will that differ to just a pole with a Wi-Fi thing on? Is it to make it more mobile for certain areas, or
I think it's broader area, like stronger coverage over a wider area.
I see.
And then you're not relying on one single point of failure for bad signal.
Right. Yeah.
I think it would be cheaper too than like one super powerful Wi-Fi. I'm not sure, but just the concept I thought was pretty unique.
Yeah.
There's some cool stuff I read back in the day about India. We're thinking we need Australia infrastructure everywhere. It's going to cost us $45 billion. What I thought was really nice in India, they tapped into it was sort of semi-internet. It's kind of a bit wacky, but what they found out, the city wouldn't be connected, or the towns or villages wouldn't be connected to the internet.
Yeah.
But they had lorry deliveries once a week.
Right.
So they put a little Wi-Fi repeater thing on the lorry, and when it drove, there's a bit more hardware behind it than that. But when they drove into town, everyone's emails had synced to the lorry.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. Nice.
And then when the lorry got back to the city 2-3 hours later, it would send everyone's emails.
Right.
And then when it came back, it would sync back and all the replies.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really elegant and smart and low cost. That's probably 10 years old now, that little case study. I didn't see it pop up anywhere else, but I thought, okay, that's kind of right, because we could have done that in regional Australia with Toll Express or something.
Right.
With maybe what if you put your Netflix buffer on there, and when it pulls into town to unload, it's caching that town's own CDN or something. So, anywho, I thought that was quite fun.
I mean, there's definitely ways to think about technology to make it more accessible. I feel like we do kind of get caught into like design patterns, and you're better at this than me, but people are thinking all in the same way, and then you get to the point where no one's actually starting with a new, like they're starting with the existing base point as opposed to starting at the raw principles.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've been a victim of that a lot.
You're just aware of it.
Yeah. Well, only recently. So this actually ties into Tesla, because there was an interview that Elon Musk did with Kevin Rose did with Elon Musk, and he points out that a lot of entrepreneurs, they reason by analogy, which it can be problematic. I think it's problematic in most cases, and whereas he's always trained himself to reason by first principles, and that's how he came up with the idea of, because he was kind of shut down on the basis of being able to produce an electric car. This whole thing about the range not being a problem and so on, and so he looked at the principles of stored electricity and lithium-ion batteries, like laptop batteries and that sort of stuff, and then worked up from first principles. So, and I think the way to do it certainly in a design circles, and I know that designers these days are becoming more and more influential in terms of the solutions that they come up with for various reasons, but it's one way to think to kind of transcend the analogies that people make is to just ask why all the time until you get to the kind of the root.
It's like a kid. Why?
Yeah, well,
why?
it's they do it all the time. Yeah. Have you got nieces or kids in your immediate family that just couldn't stop asking why for ages? Because that's kind of
I've been through it. It can be mentally painful, but
it is.
You've got to. It does feel good to be able to articulate a reasonable answer.
Jesus.
It's actually even more impressive from zero, just to point that out. Like,
well, I guess from zero, it is.
Because you just gone from that way.
Is that going to come up on our graph when we get back? They'll see our acceleration curve.
With the, I think as adults, though, we actually get to the point where we feel either silly or shameful that we don't understand, or like all these other cognitive biases why we stop asking why.
Yeah.
We're to the point where like, well, I've asked why once or twice, and the rest is obvious. Yeah. But it's not. It's just that we are shortcutting, whether it's laziness or whether we don't want to look stupid, or all these other stupid human things that we've learned over our lives are getting in the way of us truly understanding something.
Yeah.
I know I've got a bias of I don't like conflict in conversation. So if someone's talking about something and I don't really understand, I'll generally say I understand just to keep it moving. Right. Because I don't want it to stop and be like, what do you mean?
Yeah, no, we all do that.
And I'm very aware of it. I'm just not very good at counteracting it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, the analogy, the reasoning by analogies is, so this is the whole thing of, I'm building Uber for this, or I'm doing eBay for this, or Tinder for that, which it's, what was Uber for, what was it?
Yeah. Well, that's the point, it wasn't.
Yeah, so, and but, I don't know, like it's,
so you've nearly got this secondary clone market now that's launching off the back of these things.
Right. Well, as in clone, as in like literally a copy of. Jesus. Whoa! No! Stop!
That was awesome.
That would be the last one. That'll be the last one.
No more.
That was.
He's just been good at changing nappies, so he's got some experience.
That's it.
We're going to need super roads
to survive those.
We need a super road for these things. That was ridiculous. It was great fun.
Bloody hell! This definitely messes with your brain.
Yeah.
I was just talking just from a client point of view. Just that they slip in behind. I'm going to be the Airbnb for home cooked meals.
Yeah, right.
So you've got these big movers, and then this swarm will come in underneath.
Yeah.
I think people fall in love with the business model. They find business models sexy and they're like, oh, I love that. I love how they make money and they look like they're very successful. So I'm going to plug something else in and be successful also.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably misappropriating the guidance to not recreate a business model.
Yeah.
Use one that already exists that works, that you can learn from.
Yeah.
And then instead of just taking that advice, they're actually saying, well, I'm just going to copy someone and plug in a different product.
Right.
But you're not really learning the lessons from the business model.
Yeah, you're right.
But it's de-risking for investors and things. So there's this interesting pendulum once again,
I think the lowest risk for an investor, I'd say, is cash flow. But they're making money. But if you don't have cash flow, is that the entrepreneur who is actually driving the thing is really centered on those first principles. If they're flighty in any way, then your capital's at risk. It doesn't matter how good the market is. If it's a good market, other people will come in and do it. You're backing a horse at the end of the day. And if your horse is defective in some way, you probably will lose your money because it's a tough game, particularly for the best ideas and the best markets. look at how many Uber competitors, or try to be competitors, have just been shaken up. They've all tried. Well, there's been a lot that have tried, and they've just crumbled.
Pre-Uber or post?
Post.
Right.
Where it seemed like a good idea.
There's someone trying to do. I saw something in Uber in India or something, like a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
It was China. I can't remember. A bit vague in details. Don't let that ruin a good story.
Yeah.
But I did hear that there was someone trying to. And then you've got protected markets like China, where they'll do their own version of Facebook or their own version of YouTube. But they can because there's 1.5 billion users. Uber for cattle dogs. Let's do it. we went through the Middle East. We went through Lebanon, Jordan, all those sorts of things. We met some guys shearing sheep by the side of the road.
Right.
Didn't speak a word of English. We took some pictures. That basically came in and had a cup of tea with them.
Yeah.
But they were super excited, like, Australia, sheep, Australia,
Yeah.
sheep. They wanted us to bring a bloody sheep shearing machine for them. So we got talking about, you've got mobile dog washers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like, dude, what if we spin up some mobile sheep shearing things, and then we come around once every 3 months, and as you said, instead of a sheep a day, we can shear all of his sheep.
Totally.
Like, yeah, you need some
Much
NGO
quicker.
money and some government funding, but they loved us and they knew about our sheep and wanted one of our sheep shearing devices.
That is awesome.
I think we're about to lose a 360 camera, so let's just do a goodbye now. See you 360.
See you 360.
See you peeps. Hope you found
Make sure you find the mosquito.
Yeah, find it. Tell us where it is for next time.